Hey everybody, welcome back to the ministry. This is Tajma Cameron, and today the Lord has given me another song. For all of you that do not understand or know this, look up the list, songs that remind me of you, okay? That has all the song review rhema that the Lord has given me in relation to things that He's shown me through music lyrics, okay? So it's a full collection of all of the words that I gave in relation to them, and the song and or videos are in that list directly underneath of their video that the video and or song I reviewed. So I wanted to let you know that. But the Lord gave me another song today, and it's Mariah Carey. Last night I was sitting just chilling, listening to music on 95.9, and the song came up by Mariah Carey, and I just happened to be I was sitting there because I was doing something else. I was watching TV somewhat because something was on. It was a movie or something that I had on in the background, and something keyed me into the lyrics as I was listening to the radio, and I'm like, this is so good. So I had to come on and do a review of this. And it also gives me the ability to further go into what I was talking about in the video. I was talking about waiting on God. So if you listen to the lyrics as the song starts, she begins by saying, let's see here, treated me kind. When the Lord first wooed us to Him, He treated us in a kind manner. You remember when God was first trying to get you to Him? He started like giving you everything that you wanted. When He first was pulling you in, He was trying to show you the lay of how He worked. So He treated you very kindly and with kid gloves as He began to lead you through the process. Yes? Then He was leading you into your sweet destiny. You didn't understand that He was trying to pull you into purpose, which brings me to the point that I had yesterday, or in the video that you saw, where I was talking about a lot of us need to not forget God. A lot of us get caught up on the marriage part. Ooh, we getting married. Ooh, kingdom spouse. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And this is what I was trying to tell you guys, that you're forgetting about God when you're thinking about these marriages. Are you forgetting about the gift giver for the gift? God's the one that brought you in. God's the one that loved on you. God's the one that was with you. God. You didn't make it through that journey with your spouse. You made it through that journey with God. Your spouse was added to you. And some of you, your spouse has yet to be added to you. But it's your walk with God that even gave you the ability to have knowledge that you had a kingdom spouse. But it seems as if a lot of us have gotten to the point that you came to the realization you had a kingdom spouse and left God sitting on the curb. Which is ironic, seeing as it's God that you had to pray to even discover that there was a kingdom spouse. People forget God is a jealous God. God's not going to release that man unto you or woman unto you until you respect him. Think of it as a child. If you have a child, or anybody got children, if you are their parent and you promise them you're going to get them a toy or something, but they become more consumed with the toy you're going to get them, though they don't got it yet, and begin to act dishonorably or disrespectful to you because they want a toy. And don't act like you ain't never seen them kids to do that. They will darn near beat their parents over their head if they don't give them what they want, which is some very disrespectful ways that the parents allowed those kids to be raised because they weren't doing it right. Spare the rod, spoil the child. And they are perfectly fine with the child abusing them like that. Because if the child is abusing them, guess what? They're going to be a parent. They're going to grow up and be a teenager that would abuse them. And don't act like you ain't seen them terrorizing teenagers. But see, we serve a God that ain't like that. God will not be moved by our crying, whining, all kinds of foolishness in relation to these men. Because you want the man, but you won't forget about God. God wants to train you up first to have the understanding. That dude is still a guy. And guess what? He really wants you to have the understanding that that is a human being. The one thing that I learned, and this is probably why I ain't pressed about marriage. Do I talk about it? Yes. For wisdom purposes. I'm giving y'all wisdom. When it comes down to these men, I always say this to the Lord about even my own God ordained spouse. Take this as wisdom. This man is still a man. This man needs God as much as you need God. He's still very much a human being seeking out life just like you are. He did not drop down from heaven being made perfect. Granted, some of these men are fine. But their minds ain't all the way there. You got to pray a sound mind over your God ordained spouse, because some of them are so full of pride. Go back and watch my pride word. They don't get it. And you have to come to that realization as almost a decree of understanding, because guess what? Anything that you put over God, God's going to show you. Oh, you put this over me? I'm going to show you how human it is. Because guess what? Y'all can sit up there and pray for this man all day. God can give you that man. But the second you forget to honor God with that relationship, He's going to show you what's wrong with that man. I guarantee you. I would bet on it. He's going to show you every flaw. And for those of us that have been praying wives for the duration of the time that we've known about our God ordained spouse, God's been doing a work in us to learn what their issues are and pray for them. Not just pray to get them, pray for what they're dealing with. Pray for their triggers. Pray for what it is that they, from generational curses that they've been dealing with, from spiritual things that they've had to work through, and praying about like their habits, because some of them don't have good habits. They can be gorgeous all day long, but they got little habits that you probably would never agree with, especially if you're a religious Christian. And some of y'all sit up there and be like, oh, he gorgeous. Thank you, Jesus. Give me the man. And God's like, you don't want him right now. I guarantee you don't want him right now. Because guess what? Elroy sees all things. And you be praying on that for that man. And he's good. He's glad you praying for that man. But the reason you ain't got him yet is because God's trying to liberate him from certain habits and certain situations that if you really could see what God saw, you would, especially when he first got you to start praying for him. Those of us that have been in the trenches 3, 4, 5, 6 years, we've been working some of that stuff out of them. But if you ain't been in the trenches and you just got on this kingdom marriage journey thing, if they weren't already praying for you and had gotten themselves together and you're their target, meaning they're the man that has been praying for you to come into their life, and they already straightened themselves up, the one that you were praying for 9 times out of 10 had a lot of issues that needed to be dealt with. And that's why God made you sit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years praying for them, because of the fact that he needed to pull that stuff out of them. Yes? Are we hearing? Are we understanding? So, being understanding of the gift giver, because God will give you unto your idols. And guess what? I'm going to tell you something. There was a woman I used to know. She was a Christian, and she loved God, but she thought that she was doing right by God because she knew that her husband was a pastor, and she would not give this man over to God, because she's like, oh, he's a pastor, oh, he's a this, oh, he's that, oh, these. Then God gave her unto her idol, which was this man. She said as soon as she got into the relationship with this man, she became a pastor's wife. And this man would go on the pulpit, preach the word down, preach the walls out the church, take her home, and beat her. I don't even remember how long she said she was married to that man. But she had to come out of that. I wanted to make the point that guy was a narcissist. He was a horrible narcissist, and the church didn't know nothing about it. God sometimes be protecting you. He'll show you who your God-ordained spouse is, but he protects you from them and their habits, while he's working out in them what he needs to work out in them, while they're away from you. You see what God shows you. He'll show you what you can handle until he needs you to pray for something deeper. Once he slowly, treats you kindly in the direction towards that person, he will then begin to reveal to you the issues that they have in order for you to pray. And then you will go deeper. And then he will reveal more. You'll find out things and you'll gain understanding about things about that person. That if he showed you and just dropped you in this person's life at the time that he showed you who they were, you would have probably been like, you lied to me, Jesus. This man is anything but what you said. And God would have been like, but you were in a rush to get here. I need to work out in him and lead him into the fullness of the salvation that you're supposed to stand in the gap and pray for. You do the work and you pray for that man. That man will change. He may not be perfect by the time you get him, because we're not perfect. But he will be submissive to God and willing to be in relation with you and walk by your side. But it starts with God. I tell God all the time, keep him until he's ready. And you know what I get when I tell him that? God shows me more and more. He's almost ready. Because I don't focus my energy on him. I focus my energy on him. Half the time I don't know what my God ordained spouse is doing. You know when I know when my God ordained spouse is doing something? I'll be on my phone, not even thinking about him. And I'll go onto my Instagram and God will put a picture in front of my face. I'll be like, I wasn't even thinking about him today. What are you? And it's almost God's reward for me not focusing my energy on him. Then I get a couple of minutes to be like, oh, okay. We already 17 minutes and I hadn't even started working on the song really, but I needed to get that out first. So let's get back to the song. Carried me through desperation. God's the one that carried you through the desperation. Not the God ordained spouse, God. To the one that was waiting for me. This is where the God ordained spouse comes in. God dealt with you. God carried you through the darkest seasons. God carried you through your desperation. Then he showed you who your spouse was. For those that were gracious enough to have been given vision of who their spouse is. I know the day that I sat in my room that I was in at the time, and I said to the Lord, show me who my spouse is, because I do not want to be distracted by people coming at me trying to say one thing or another. Because I'd gotten into a situation that could have been dangerous for me. And when that happened, and the fact that I was able to walk away from that, I said, God, I need to know who he is so I don't ever end up in scenarios like this no more. Okay? So, with that being said, when I told God, tell me who he is and I will focus on you. I prayed that prayer 6 years ago. I believe it was about 6 years ago I prayed that prayer sitting on my bed. And I prayed it in the middle of, it had to been around early summer and 2016. Like June. Because he led me to something in relation to the man in July. And then he told me somewhere in October, November. Okay? Of that year. And I ain't been worried about nobody since. It has been peace for me. Does that mean that I didn't slip up and was watching or seeking or saying certain things? It doesn't mean that I didn't. But the one thing I will say is, even in knowing, I never initiated a conversation where I said what I knew to the person. I never did. But I will admit that I did respond and make comments. And when I did that, I did see a reaction on that person's end. But in fear of having gotten as much reaction as I did get, I backed off for a season. And he has not responded to that degree visually since. But I know he's seen me. So, when the time is right, God will open it up. I already know. I know it's going to open up soon. Don't know when. That's on God. But I know because of what God's showing me and what God's doing for and to me to let me know, oh, this is about to go down. When? Don't know. That's not my job. That's God. But this might end up being 2 parts because I'm still trying to get through these lyrics. Oh. So it took so long. I just told you. I've known for 6 years who my God ordained spouse is. It took a while because God had to deal with me, and he's been dealing with him. God sat me down. When I first went to New York, it was around Christmas time. I remember we had the Christmas Thanksgiving dinner at the place that I was staying at the time. It was the same night I had a dream. I had went upstairs after eating because, that tryptophan from that food be good. And you fall asleep. I went to sleep. I had a dream. I saw 2 sides. I saw me. I saw him. Both of us were going through a series of a sequence of events. But there was a partitionary wall between the 2 of us. And he was going through what he was going through. I was going through what I was going through. He showed me that. That was 5 years ago. That was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So I say 5 years ago because it was towards the end of the year and we're at the beginning of this year. So yeah, it was about 5 years ago and some change. So yeah, it took a while because they be stubborn and you be stubborn. Some of y'all be on the same page. Some of y'all get out of alignment. And every time you came out of alignment, guess what? It took longer. Still, I believe some of you have stood in the gap in belief for these men because God said, just stand. I'll bring it to pass. And we have. I'm talking about the long-running standards that have been standing for 5 years because you've known for 5 years. I'm talking about the long-running standards that God blessed you with the knowledge early and you've known and God said, okay, good. Now I can show you the things that you need to pray for this person. I'm talking to y'all. I'm talking about the ones that may have or did not slip up during that 5-year period and do something inappropriately. Whether it be you got tired and wanted to go do your own thing, or you tried to interfere and interject your own opinion to the situation. Because you got tired of waiting. That wasn't me. I didn't do that. So you wanted to try and situate yourself. Okay? Um, Somehow, the one that I needed would find me eventually. The one thing I hear all of the time is from the people that talk about kingdom marriages: if God is preparing you for this man, he's preparing that man for you, which means he's shown that man you. And to me, it's funny. It's some things that popped up. And I used to wonder, if you're doing this to me, are you doing this to him too? Because I remember one time I was on Instagram and I had posted something. And immediately after I posted it, a video from him popped up immediately. And it didn't happen just once. It happened 3-4 times, 3-4 days in a row. Something he posted popped up immediately after something I posted. And it kept doing that for a couple of days. I was like, and I'm starting to wonder, I'm like, is this what happened to him too? Meaning, every time he goes on his Instagram, if I posted something new, is something from me popping up on his Instagram? Because you do know that irregardless of if you follow a person, especially the way the Instagram is set up now, your videos are just going to pop up. They'll show you as a suggestion to somebody. And if God wants that, guess what? You'll be all up in that man's face. So God will do that. You don't got to do nothing. And God will even show them, yeah, that's you. That's yours. I had a vision of love. And that was all that you've given to me. God showed you that that was your God-ordained spouse. God told you that was your God-ordained spouse. Only proof you've ever had is the fact that God kept giving you visions, dreams, visions of the life that you would have with this person. I can't tell you how many visions I've had. I mean, they went from basic just visions in dreams of marrying the person to visions of walking around in a house with the person. I'm talking about being on the beach in my own body, turning to look at the person because I'm with them. Seeing us with our kids. Vision. Having a vision that I'm looking over at him and he's holding one of our children. Or he's walking ahead of me and I'm looking at him holding our son. Clear as day. Visions of me sitting in the passenger seat of a car, fully wearing my wedding bands. Vision. Vision. God is doing this. We ain't got nothing to do with it. We just were the ones that were obedient enough to say, I receive. And God placed the vision in our hearts. God's shown me the vision of our kids. God showed me the vision. He's given me little visions. It was like, I remember one time I had was laying on the couch and God put a video in front of me of him. It was a series of images. It was a video on YouTube. And it was a series of images of him traveling. And I'm like, okay. And I was impressed about it. I was like, oh, that's cute. I looked at it because I actually liked the whatever it was he was talking about. He was talking about an actual application of some sort. And I was like, oh, okay. And I went to sleep that night. When I went to sleep, I lie to you not. The first vision I had was me standing over him while he was sitting in a chair, like a comfortable lounge chair, doing something. But he looked up at me as if I was distracted. And the only thing that I can think happened is that I wasn't in a vision. I was in a memory that hasn't happened yet. Because he was looking at me like, by me standing there and not responding, it was as if I paused. And the only thing that I can think that made me do that was that I was having deja vu of the vision I was in. Meaning he was looking at me as if he was seeking an answer from me, and I didn't say it because of the fact that I was recalling deja vu. Meaning I was remembering the memory. The other day, I was out with my father, and it was raining, and I had had a dream that I had stepped outside several weeks before of a place. I had a red umbrella, and I took it out of my bag in the dream, and it enveloped me in the dream. When I stepped outside of the grocery store that day, I pulled the red umbrella, and it was funny because I didn't have it in my hand initially. My dad called me back and said, take the umbrella. When I took the umbrella from him and walked outside to put it up, the action to open it up and put the umbrella up reminded me of the dream I had. And I almost paused for a moment. So it made me think that in that vision, I paused because I was not in a vision. I was in a memory. That has not happened yet. Because I paused because I was looking at him. And he was seeking an answer that I was pausing because I was having deja vu of the dream. Don't know when it's going to happen, but I know that it is. Vision of love. So I'm going to come back and we're going to do a part 2 to this because I ain't even got deep into it. But enjoy yourself. I'll be right back.